Hey y'all, so before I get this video started, let me give a quick shout out. These were the first 3 comments in my last video. If you want to be featured in my next video, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell and come show me some love when I drop a new video. What's up you guys, it's KeAmber Vaughn aka CoachKe coming back to you with another video. If you are new to my channel, welcome, and if you're not new, welcome back. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and also tap the bell so that you are notified of every new video that I post. So as y'all can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be doing another nursing story time. If you're new to my channel, most of my videos are kind of geared towards finances, but because I am a nurse, sometimes I do story times. So today's story time, I'm actually gonna do it in the form of a get ready with me because I haven't done that in quite a while and I just want to kind of play in makeup. I was gonna make this like a sit down video at first, but then I'm like, I gotta do my makeup for the sit down video, so why not just make it a get ready with me video. So I will make sure that I show you guys all of my products, even though I know some of you guys might not be interested in that, but that's just so that I don't have to go back and tell you guys later. And I'll try to remember to put everything in the description box. So to start off, I'm going to prime my face with the Milk Hydro Grip Primer and the Rimmel Stay Matte Primer. And then I also use a little bit of the e.l.f. Matte Putty Primer because my face, like, it's not oily anymore, but when I wear makeup, especially makeup that's not like a matte foundation, then I tend to start getting a little bit oily. And the foundation that I use is a glowy foundation, I guess. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm putting the putty primer kind of like in my T-zone, and then the rest of it is gonna go on the rest of my face. So today's story time, I wanted to tell y'all about 2 particular times where, had I not advocated, number 1, for myself, but also advocated for the patient, I don't know, I think my license could have possibly been put on the line. And both times it was because of my coworkers, whether it was due to a doctor or a nurse. I'm not gonna blame it on the facility, because at the end of the day, people know what policies and procedures are, and sometimes they try to force you guys to do things that you know you ain't supposed to be doing. Okay, so I'm gonna set my primer with this Smashbox setting spray, the kind that comes in this bottle. And this just helps, again, so that I don't get really oily. So I'm not going to name the hospital. I'm not gonna name where I was. You guys know that I've done travel nursing and all of that, so yeah. Now if you are new here, I am a psych nurse, so things are just a tad bit different when you're in psych nursing versus other areas of nursing. I'm gonna put a little bit of concealer. This concealer is the Too Faced Multi-Sculpting Concealer in the color Maple. So I always talk about how you really have to make sure that you advocate for yourself. Like, I feel like a lot of issues that come with nursing and why a lot of people get burned out is because people get so afraid of losing their jobs, as if there aren't so many other jobs that we can get. They get afraid of losing their jobs, and then they end up kind of honestly putting themselves at jeopardy. Like for me, I'd rather lose a job than lose my license. So I'm going to forever advocate for myself no matter what. And if I lose my job advocating for myself, well then that job just was not for me. So I'm using the e.l.f. hydrating camo concealer in the color Rich Chocolate to contour. I contour and highlight up underneath my foundation, and then right in the middle right here I have a couple of dabs of that same concealer in Tan Walnut. And then I do put concealer on my eyes before I put eyeshadow on, because my eyes are naturally dark. Most of the time when you guys see me on my channel, I don't have anything on my eyes. It just looks like it because of the color of my eyelids. So let's get into the story, y'all. So the first situation had to do with this particular doctor who kind of always seemed to try to do things a little awkward. Like the doctor used to always like want us to put the orders in for them. Like, I don't have an issue with that sometimes, just kind of depending on who the doctor is, especially if I know that they're like working in the ER as well and they're seeing patients and trying to put in orders and all of that. Like, okay, I might put some orders in for you. But when you are a telehealth doctor and you're sitting at home and all you need to do is pull up your computer, you could do it yourself. Because at the end of the day, you know, even when you have the telephone orders and you're reading it back, there are times where the doctor might decide that they want to do something a little bit different. Like, you just kind of never know. So I just would rather have doctors put their own orders in. But anyway, so I came into work and the previous nurse ended up having a pretty late admission. And in doing so, by the time I came in, she hadn't, like, she did all of the admission stuff, like as far as like asking the patient questions and stuff like that. But what she hadn't done yet was like acknowledge all the orders, because by the time she was kind of finishing up, the doctor hadn't put the orders in for her. All right, cool. So in report, the nurse let me know that the patient during the admission process asked her like, hey, if I wanted to leave, would I be able to leave? Now, depending on a person's psych admission, most of the time when you are admitted in psych, you can't just leave against medical advice. There's a reason why they admitted you to that acute unit. So it's highly unlikely that you'll be able to be admitted and just get to go home whenever you want to. Usually in acute stays, you're saying a minimum honestly of 48 hours. Sometimes it might be 24 hours, just kind of depending. Like I remember I did have one patient who really should have only been there for 24 hours, but they ended up staying a very long time, and it could have possibly been because of his skin color. So in this situation, like I said, the nurse had already kind of let me know that the patient had asked about possibly going home against medical advice. And the nurse had asked the doctor, like, you know, hey, or told the doctor, hey, this patient is asking about going home. What should I tell her? Is she able to just leave whenever she wants to based on her admission diagnosis? So the doctor did let her know that, hey, no, she cannot leave, and if she decides to leave, then we'll have to put her on an involuntary hold. When she told the patient that, that was it. You know, the patient didn't ask any more about leaving. She didn't attempt to leave or anything like that. The two palettes I'm going to be using are from e.l.f. bite-sized eyeshadows. One is Truffles and one is Berry Bag. So anyway, so the patient, I ended up getting the patient at the change of shift. So, you know, I'm now her nurse and I'm going through her admission orders. Well, as I'm going through her admission orders, I noticed that, you know, everything, I forgot if we used Epic or Meditech. I always forget because I've used so many different charting systems and I use them for such short periods of time. I don't remember what's what. But anyway, the way that this charting system was, when you had all of like the orders and everything, they kind of were categorized. So like all of your medication orders are kind of in one place. And then like all of your dietary orders are in one place, and then you kind of had like the general orders of, is this person like a fall precaution? Are they a seizure precaution? Are they an assault precaution? Are they an elopement precaution? You got all these different precautions, and then part of that is also their admission status, whether they are voluntary or involuntary, which is very important to know, because when somebody is an involuntary hold, well, then you have to know, like, okay, they're involuntary for how long? Has it already gone to like a court order status, or is this just like a involuntary, like the first parts of the involuntary hold by the doctor? So as I'm going through this lady's admission, I see that she is an involuntary hold. So that immediately raised a red flag for me, because I'm like, now, wait a minute. Why is this lady an involuntary hold? I know that she asked the nurse who asked the doctor about her leaving, you know, but it was not a threat. It was like none of that. She just asked if she'd be able to leave, and that's not grounds for an involuntary hold. So at that point, I went ahead and I called the doctor, and I'm like, hey, you know, I'm doing the admission status or the admission orders for this particular patient, and I noticed that you made the patient an involuntary hold, and I don't necessarily agree with that. So can you like explain to me why she's an involuntary hold? Well, the doctor then goes, well, the day shift nurse that admitted her let me know that the patient was asking about leaving against medical advice and, you know, discharging herself. I'm like, okay, yeah, she told me that as well, but that's not explaining why she's an involuntary hold. Well, and I quote, I don't want you guys calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning because she's trying to elope and leave, and she's threatening to leave. So I would rather put her on an involuntary hold right now, and then we can revisit it in the morning. What? Y'all, not on my watch and not on my license. So I had to let the doctor know, like, ma'am, that is not grounds for an involuntary hold. You cannot put somebody on an involuntary hold because you don't want to be called at 2 o'clock in the morning. If you're the on-call doctor, you get paid extra to be on call. And like, you're a doctor. We're supposed to call you at whatever time you are available for whatever orders that we need. You can't just, I'm like, I'm not putting my license on the line by making this woman an admission status that she's not qualified for. Like, no. So I would like for you to go back and put voluntary orders in. Otherwise, I'm just gonna have to escalate this to my manager, my supervisor, because this is unacceptable. Well, just go ahead and change it to voluntary. And y'all, she had an attitude. And what bothered me the most was, like, she was a telehealth doctor. Most of their doctors were telehealth. So it's not even like you actually have to come into the job to do anything. She didn't even live in the same city that I was working in. So it's just like, you don't even have to get up and do nothing. Get up, turn your computer on, and that's it. What are we complaining about here? So I was really frustrated with that, and I've had that doctor like literally tell me, I'm too tired to put my orders in, so can you do it? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I don't mind doing, you know, favors for doctors, but it's just like, you get to the point where it's like, you get paid to do this, so I'm gonna need you to do your job. So y'all, I was very frustrated with that particular situation, but it ended up getting handled, which I was very happy about, because I just don't like when things are done to patients that shouldn't be done. You have way too many people out here who actually should qualify for a 5150 or an involuntary hold, and for you to want to put somebody on one just because you don't want to be woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning if she decides that she wants to try to leave. That's not happening. Because I felt like if that situation was ever audited, they gonna ask me why I accepted it. I'm gonna get the brunt end of that, as well as the doctor. But you also have to remember that you as a nurse are the patient's advocate. You know, so I had to make sure that, like I said earlier, I was advocating for my patient, yes, but I was also advocating for my license. Honey, listen. I might not have paid the whole $60,000 for my license, because a lot of it was taken care of with scholarships, but that license is way too expensive for me to just be throwing it down the drain over something stupid. So that was scenario number one. And y'all, I do my makeup pretty fast. After I get my eyes together, everything just start moving real fast. And I think I'm done at this point. All right, so now before I get into the second scenario, I'm gonna go ahead and blend out this concealer. I don't really like using sponges very much, to be honest with you. I actually kind of hate it. So let me blend that out. The one thing y'all won't see me put on is lipstick. I just don't really vibe with lip colors. I don't know if it's because my lips are so dark. Like, colors just look very weird on me. And then also, just so y'all know, when I get to the foundation part, my foundation might be a little bit off. Y'all, I'm gonna post a picture right here of the color I was not even 6 months ago. I tan so easily, and then I lose my tan very easily because I don't really go places like that. I kind of stay in the house. Like, I literally just went out the house yesterday and the day before. That was the first time in 12 whole days. I don't go nowhere. All right, and then I'm going to, so the second situation, I don't even think I remember where I was. I don't know if it was like at that same hospital or what, but both situations still were acute care. That's the most important. And with acute care, you just really have to be very careful with how certain things are done, because those insurance companies and things like that audit those places kind of often because of how expensive the stays are. A lot of acute places are anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 a day. So when you have someone who's involuntary, or who ends up having to stay for more than the typical number of days, you have to make sure that your documentation is A1, otherwise that person can end up with a huge bill. So the foundation color that I'm going to use, I usually use warm mahogany, but in the mornings my face is so pale, and I start to regain my color later on in the day, but my face is naturally darker than my chest and my neck. I do not like matching to my neck and my chest because I feel like it makes me look like a ghost. So I just like to match to my face, and whatever happens, happens. I typically use warm mahogany. Mahogany is my sister's color, and now that it's been about an hour and a half since I decided to start this video, I feel like I need to just use my regular color, but I might, where's that one? I had another foundation, I don't know where it went. Oh, right here. This is the Maybelline Fit Me Poreless in Spicy Brown. I bought this and never really used it because I feel like it's not my color, but now that I'm so much lighter, I might use this. And this is the NYX Born to Glow. This is one of my favorite foundations. Most foundations I can't find my color, like I just can't. So what do I want to do? I think I'm gonna use the mahogany, which is my sister's color, and mix a little bit of this spicy brown in there, I think. I hope I'm not making a bad decision. Actually, they're pretty similar in color. It's just different undertones. I'm also just gonna put a little bit of the warm mahogany because I really don't know which one I want to use. You can see like the difference in the colors. This is usually what I use, and then the pinker one is that spicy brown, and then this is that mahogany color. I feel like I should just use spicy brown by itself. Who knows? All right, so let's get into the second situation. Second situation, I get a call at the change of shift that I have a patient coming. Now, I kind of knew in report that I would possibly be getting a patient fairly quickly, so that wasn't my issue. However, what they did tell me in report was that they hadn't brought the like they have been waiting to bring this patient for a while. They were waiting for the patient to sign voluntary paperwork saying that they were voluntarily admitting themselves. But the patient didn't want to sign because he didn't want to be admitted. So when they called to tell me like, hey, we're bringing the patient, I'm like, wait a minute. Because the way that this particular hospital operated, when a patient is in the ED or the psych ED, sometimes the psych ED wasn't open, so the regular ED had to handle these patients. But either way, before they come to us, they have to have the voluntary paperwork signed, or the involuntary paperwork has to be signed. Now, when it comes to involuntary orders, a person, a nurse typically, has to have specific training and specialized certification in order to sign the involuntary paperwork. Everybody at this particular hospital could not do it, okay? So keep that in mind. Damn, I don't know. Y'all, I'm so pale. I hate it. I hate it. I think I'm just gonna go with the spicy brown, and I hope that I don't regret this, but I think I'm going to. I'm gonna use, oh, that's not too bad actually. All right, so anyway, yeah, so I'm gonna go with that spicy brown color. It looks crazy when I'm putting it on, but when it's blended out, it doesn't look so bad. Okay, so yeah, so they call me and I tell them, hold on, you know, ain't no admission status, so y'all can't bring me no patient right now until that is signed. Like, that's, y'all have to do that. So a couple of hours go by, and by this time it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I get a call from transport telling me, hey, we're on our way with such and such patient. I said, hold on, don't bring that patient yet. I need to call the nurse because I haven't gotten an updated report, because when we get report, like, we need to know what their last set of vitals were, how long ago those vitals were taken, like all of those things, if they got the paperwork signed that I need and stuff like that. So I told them to not bring the patient yet so that I could call the ED and talk to the attending nurse to make sure that everything that I needed was done. So I talked to her and she's like, no, he still hasn't signed the voluntary paperwork. I'm like, well, how are you bringing him to me? Like, this don't make sense. So she's like, well, from my understanding, one of the nurses that's coming in the morning has the certification to pass off or to sign off on the involuntary paperwork. I'm like, but that's not until 8 hours from now. So what you're telling me is you're going to admit a patient to me that's not going to be legally held for 8 hours because he didn't sign voluntary, because he's refusing, and you're telling me the involuntary paperwork is not going to be signed for 8 hours. So you're telling me that he's going to be illegally held on my license for the next 8 hours. I told her, let me call you back. So at this point, this color isn't so bad actually. I just hate how pale I am. So at this point, the nurse who was working with me, she had been working there for quite some time. She was a vet, and I actually was in the acute unit at this point. I wasn't in step down. And that was the other thing. I'm like, it ain't even step down. Like, this ain't something where, you know, it's something we could just kind of glance over. Even if we could, I still wasn't doing it. So the nurse that was working with me was like, I don't understand why you're so bothered by it. We do this all the time. Who is we? I told her, well, if it doesn't make you uncomfortable and if it doesn't bother you, how about you give me one of your patients and you admit this patient? How about we do that? Well, no, because if you do it all the time and if you're comfortable with it, you take the patient. I'll take one of yours. You can give me your hardest patient if you want to. I'm just not admitting this patient. Like, it's not happening on my watch. So at this point, I get another call from transport. Hey, we're bringing a patient. No, you are not. We still have not figured out how this patient is going to be admitted. So at this point, I end up going ahead and just calling the supervisor, the house supervisor. And this was my thing. If you need a special certification or a special training or something, why wouldn't you make sure your house supervisor has it? Like, your house supervisors are always going to be here on whatever schedule that they have. All of your house supervisors, And probably, honestly, all of your managers on each unit, or your supervisors for each unit, or your charge nurse for each unit should have this paperwork. It should always be somebody in this entire big old hospital. There should be at least 1 or 2 people who can sign this paperwork. That just did not make sense to me. So I called the supervisor and I let her know. I said, hey, just so you know, they're trying to bring me a patient from the ED who refuses to sign voluntary paperwork. We don't have anybody to sign involuntary paperwork, and they're telling me that it's okay for this patient to be admitted right now and not have an admission status for the next 8 hours. Oh no, we don't do that. I said, well, according to the nurse that's working with me, she said y'all do this all the time. And she was like, oh no, I'm glad you called me. Let me call the ED right now and let them know they will not be sending that patient to you guys until we have somebody on staff who can sign that paperwork. Okay, thank you. Because again, if that would have been audited at any point in time in the future, that would have came back on me. And them people, that hospital was not gonna take up for me. They wasn't gonna make sure my license wasn't taken away. So at the end of the day, I matter. My license matters. How am I gonna sit here in front of a judge and say, well, I know that I wasn't supposed to, but they told me they do it all the time. They're not gonna care about that. And guess what that job is gonna say? Well, in our policies and procedures, it says that you're not supposed to admit that patient. That's what they're gonna do. You're not gonna catch me lacking. So needless to say, I never got that patient. And in the morning, I think actually the one person that was supposed to be staffed that day to be able to handle the involuntary paperwork, if I'm not mistaken, she didn't even come into work. Catch that dirt. All right, I'm gonna do my brows real quick. This is pretty weird that I do it last. But this is Browsings. It's so old that I think it's dark brown. I've had this for so long, and y'all can see I barely do makeup. I probably bought this like 7 years ago. Still good in my book. And then I'm using this Smashbox number 12 angle brow brush. And as y'all can see, I have naturally like lighter eyebrows, so I try not to go too crazy because I don't want it to look dark. I think I look really weird with dark eyebrows because I don't have dark eyebrows naturally. So I try not to go too heavy. Ooh. And normally, I messed up a little bit right here. Normally I wouldn't because I'd be way closer to the dang on mirror, but I didn't want to get out of focus. That's that. Like I said, I don't do a whole lot with that. And then even though it's not too heavy at the beginning, I'm still gonna brush it out. I hate really harsh brows because they just don't look right, especially the blocky ones. Like, how do you have such dark eyebrows right there? Who even has eyebrows like that? So yeah, y'all, that was 2 experiences that I am just very happy that I advocated for myself in those particular situations, because you can't put your license on the line for anybody. You have to make sure that regardless of what people may do all the time, that it still follows the national guidelines and stuff. Like, because at the end of the day, like I said, if you don't advocate for you, nobody else is, I promise. Now, I usually get styes on my eyes if I use mascara, but this is like a sample of the Milk Kush mascara, and I literally just make sure it's at the very ends. I don't get anywhere close to my actual lash line, because if I do, I will get a stye. Even if I like wipe it off really good. My eyes are really sensitive. And I don't do anything to the bottom lash. And it's just mascara. Like, I could put like liquid eyeliner to do like a cat eye or something, and it not bother me. It's just the mascara. I don't know what it is about mascara. There was a vegan brand that I used to be able to use. It came in a white bottle with like gold, I think, and blue on it. I used to get it from Target, but I haven't bought it in a while because I don't really do makeup very often. All right, for my lips, I'm gonna take this pencil. It's just a Profusion eyeliner pencil. Again, I don't really do very much to my lips. My lips are naturally dark. I was born like this. No, it ain't because I smoke or anything. I don't do those things. So usually what I do, I just line it a little bit. Like that, like so. I take a little bit of Vaseline. I'm gonna take my hair down too. And then I take this really, really cheap glittery lip gloss that I got from Five Below. It came like in a pack. It was like a unicorn, some for kids, child, but I like it. How do I look? All right, so let's take my hair down. So I hope y'all enjoyed the story time. Y'all, I got stories for days, because it's just a lot of craziness that really be going on in these establishments. And you know, a lot of people get afraid to talk about their experiences. I'm never afraid of talking about my experiences, and I ain't gonna tell you exactly what hospital, and you know, sometimes I'll say, oh, at my current job, if it's just like not something that's like what I talked about today. But you have to be aware of situations that you might be put in, because trust me, these are not isolated situations. And I feel like too often we just allow these doctors and our co-workers to just kind of talk us into whatever they want us to do. And at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you're following policy. You got to make sure you're following the hospital policy, not your unit policy, okay? Because at the end of the day, that policy is going to be the reason why you keep or lose your job. And that's it, y'all. Y'all, my hair is getting so long. It's curled, but it's pretty much at my bra strap now. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed my little story time. If y'all have any questions, leave them down below. If you are in healthcare and you have noticed some crazy stuff, if they tried to get you to do some crazy stuff, feel free to leave your situation or your experience down below. Please thumbs up this video, subscribe if you haven't already. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.